Have you figured out your niche? Are you helping adding value to other people's lives? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Munira's Musings with your host, Munira Zahabi.
Greetings from Chicagoland. This is Munira with a new guest on Munira's Musings. Our guest today is Drew Stevens, a financial planner, adjunct professor in wealth solutions. Hi, Drew. Welcome to our show.
Hi, good morning. It's good to see you.
Thank you. So Munira's Musings is a show that is showcasing people who are our guests who have found their niche and are able to take it to the next level. With Drew Stevens is a friend, is a financial planner, adjunct professor, and he talks about wealth solutions. Thank you, Drew, for your time and being on my show. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited. Obviously we do these interviews live or virtually now because of COVID-19. So it's my pleasure to be here with you today.
Great. And it's wonderful, right? Because now we have the technology to be in a place where we are not, right?
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can dive into the interview.
Sure. I guess the short story, the short autobiography is that I spent 17 years on Wall Street. I was mostly involved in sales and marketing to large commercial and investment banks for a number of years selling information systems. I had moved from New York City to St. Louis, and it was at that time I either try to find something as a full-time position or do something on my own, and I decided to transition to my own business. Initially, I went back to my old clients to help them with some of the things that I had seen on the sales and marketing side. And over the years, that has now transitioned to now becoming a consultant and advisor to senior leaders and founders of middle market companies, anyone from roughly $2 to $3 million on the lowest end to $300 million on the highest end. And I help them in three ways. Number one, I help them if the business is having a problem with its people, a problem with its processes, and a problem with branding its products and services. The second thing I help them with is scaling the business. If a senior leader or founder comes to me and says, we need more money to scale, I will help them with either debt financing and private equity in order to get them the money to scale or perhaps even buy another business. And because of that then led to a third particular area, which is then I help them with business insurance, and not what you're thinking, property and casualty and auto. There are in business lines of insurance, or rather better said, insurance lines for businesses that a lot of businesses and founders don't know about, things that can protect them, including things that are happening today with COVID. And in addition to that, I help them with financial planning and advisory. So now I'm able to offer a homogeneous solution where before it was rather fragmented and very finite. And it's nice knowing to be able to offer a houseware's worth of solutions to my individual clients.
So you took what you had and then grew it, or did you have to change it?
I think that it's an excellent question. I took what I had and I morphed it. What I had before was very particular set of skills related to sales, related to marketing. In other words, here's a product and let me help fulfill a value or a need. However, over the years, I've transitioned into learning how to listen more and listen to not only the finite issue that a client is undergoing, but really some of the more of the objectives that they're looking to hit, looking for the measurements that they want in terms of the success ratio. So rather than being transactional, I become more relational and more advisory because of that.
So you mentioned COVID twice. That's happening around the world. What advice do you have for people who are in a place where they've lost hope? Because there's a lot of people out there.
Well, there's several things, and I could take up probably 3 shows going over each and every one of them, but I'll say them succinctly. Number one, because you and I have shared this from a personal perspective, from a spiritual perspective, there is a God, there is a creator, there is somebody above you that brought you here, and you have a reason for being here. Stop losing hope, because what you need to do is really work within yourself, work within your soul, and realize what your God-given talents are and utilize them. That's one, because he's not here to make you suffer. He's making you go through a transition for some people. Yeah, there are some that have lost their jobs, but that gives you an opportunity to transition to something else. Secondly, if you're a business owner, somewhat similar to what I was saying about myself, perhaps you need to look at the business and look at your clientele. Now, if you are a restaurateur, you could look at this a little bit differently, as many restaurants have done, and transition from sit down to curbside to single eating to whatever the case may be. I would suggest to each and every one of you that are business owners, and I know that's your intent here for your audience, Munira, and that is, look at your business and look to see what value you can provide to your business clients. There are too many businesses out there, which is part of the reason why we're seeing a host of bankruptcies, that were so transactional because the economy was good. It's in these dire times, whether it's the global recession, the depression, the mini recessions of 2001, and so on, where you start to see a separation of, as to sound somewhat trite, the men from the boys. Because it's very easy to start a business when the economy is rocking and rolling. These are the times where you really got to buckle in and settle down. And the third, just going back to a personal issue, stop watching the news. Stop watching the news. And I hate to say it because you and I know each other on Facebook, but stop playing around on Facebook. Stop playing around on LinkedIn. What I'm finding on LinkedIn and on Facebook and many other platforms is that we are surrounded by bullies. The news is a bully. The politicians are bullies, and they're trying to place fear into you. And the more you separate out and do things that keep you away from that negativity, which include, some of you may disagree with me, that even includes friends and family that are negative. For those people that are negative, you don't need that negative energy around you. Separate it out, get rid of it, and you'll feel a lot better by doing that, truly, because then you'll be, I'm not saying positivity and all of that. I want you to think that life is bubbly. I am a big believer in Jesus Christ. And if you read the Bible and you read what Christ said, he never said this was going to be easy. This road is a road heavily traveled and through a lot of aggravation. But if you get rid of some of the negativity, you'll be able to make it through those bumps and obstacles.
Thank you for those points. Amazing. I'm smiling because you're right. When you sit and think about the negativity and the news and the media and everything else, even now as we sit and talk to our friends on Zoom or on Facebook or Skype or whatever we are doing, people just talk about the same thing, and it's dwelling, and it seems like it's an infection that keeps festering and doesn't go away. So you're right with that.
And it's not going to change, Munira. I turned on the news this morning when I woke up this morning, and immediately I see the negativity of Nancy Pelosi's bringing everybody back to Congress because because Trump is concerned about the Postal Service. Two things about this. You couldn't go back and bring everybody to the table for the unemployment benefits that are needed, but you're worried about the Postal Service delaying voting. That's one. Two, the Postal Service is a bad institutional corporation. If it were a private corporation, it'd be bankrupt right now. They're losing over $8 billion a year. So rather than focus on how you're going to, get through the voting, why don't you fix it or just bankrupt it? I'll tell you what, I said to my wife this morning, you want to fix this whole voting thing? Take everything, give it to Jeff Bezos and Amazon, and watch how many votes come in literally overnight. You won't have a problem at all. There's the positive spin on it.
Everybody has their views. We're not going to go political here because I don't know where I stand, in the sense that I want to be neutral. I don't want to be caught up in the web. So let's just leave it there.
Got it.
The question I have is, pivot, right? Everybody talks about pivot, and everywhere you turn, there's this word pivot. How have you pivoted, and what are you telling other people and advising other people to pivot, especially in the finance world, because your background is there?
You know, it's a great question. And to a certain extent, I was able to pivot ever so slightly based upon nothing more than listening. What happened is that I was trying to fund a borrower who was interested in getting $2.5 million to rehabilitate an old hotel, of all things, here in St. Louis. And so the lender came out to do a site visit, and he said one thing to me. He said, "Are you sure that he could pay me back?" And I said, "Sure. I don't think he's got another hotel. The hotel's raking in about $5 million a year. This should not be an issue whatsoever." However, the voices in my head started going off saying, "Drew, something's wrong with this picture. Listen, listen, listen." I did my own research, and that's what led me down the road to insurance and financial planning. And the reason being is because what I realized, and what you need to all realize as you're listening to this, is that sometimes as business owners, we're chugging around and chugging around and chugging around. We get up and go to work. We get up and go to work, and we stop listening to our customers. And to help you with this, and to help with what Munira's question was on pivoting, I think a good way to think about this is a quote from Peter Drucker, and that is, "The purpose of the business is the customer." You all need to start listening to what your customers are asking for. You need to start listening to what the customer is in need of. And you need to think about ways that you can provide differentiation in the value that you have. The value in your product, the value in your service really doesn't matter. And then stop thinking in such a finite way and saying, well, he's just looking for me to tailor his pants, or he's just looking for me to find a home, or he's just looking for me to do a roof. Think about the whole homogeneous solution. What are they looking for in that picture? So rather than the lender saying to me, "I'm concerned about the borrower returning my money," what I heard was, "Drew, you're not providing enough value to your clients." And so that led me to understand how to be a good financial planner for them, how to become a better financial advisor, and help them put money aside so that they don't have to go into default, to have to never have to borrow money again. And now, because of what we were talking about ever so slightly with COVID, Munira, yeah, it transitioned ever so slightly. But again, what I heard were business owners were becoming disabled because they were symptomatic. What I heard were business owners were passing away because they had gotten COVID and didn't realize it. And believe it or not, there is insurance that actually pays the business expenses if a business owner becomes disabled. The insurance also pays individual salaries. And more importantly, I then started to conduct research. Believe it or not, 74% of most owners place all of their key responsibilities for two people within the organization. What happens if one of those two people becomes disabled or pass away? We know three things about organizations. Number one, people quit. Number two, people are fired. And number three, people die. And so if you're not protecting your organization in some way from any of those three things, it's no wonder why companies suffer today.
Thank you. I mean, I've gone through this with my husband's business, right? I mean, it was pre-COVID, but he passed away. And so there wasn't anything in place for us to say that how do we salvage whatever he has and go back and recreate it or sell the business, and it just had to die, like wither off like a weed, right? And it shouldn't have been that way. So there's things that we learn along the process, but had I talked to you before, we would have had something in place. How do people find you, Drew?
Well, what they could do is my website for consulting advisory and for the scaling is drew-stevens and stevens with a v.com. I'm in the midst of actually putting up a website for the financial advisory, and that's because there's a lot of regulation in that industry, so that takes a little bit more time. And the other two ways, my email is drew@drew-stevens.com, or you can feel free to call me at 314 574-9716.
Awesome. There you go, folks. You know, finance is the biggest problem that everybody especially in America has. You know, there's a lot of people out there who don't even have enough provision for 6 months out. Forget 6 months out, 6 days out. You know, there's a lot of people who depend on their daily income that comes in, and that's a problem. So,
You know, if I could, I'll add if I could add two things to that. If people look at their finances, just to add on to what you were saying, there's what's known as guaranteed income and unguaranteed income. There's also non-guaranteed expenses and guaranteed expenses. So at some particular point in time, you as an individual need to understand how much liquidity you need to meet those expenses. Food is going up. We know that healthcare is going up. You're going to need money for either rent or a mortgage at some particular point. It doesn't matter if you're a business owner or if you're somebody that's just listening. In some particular ways, you've got to be very cautious with your money. And believe it or not, 88% of most people are not. As you know, somebody who worked in a corporate environment at one point, it was really easy, whether I was working at a large Fortune 500 or 100, take my salary, put it into a 401k. But 401ks get diminished because they get sloshed when the stock market goes down with the volatility. The other thing that people don't recognize is where that money is allocated to and what's it allocated for. Most people don't watch it. They figure, it's in a 401k, it's fine, I'll be good. No, that fluctuates with the market. What I do is I help a lot of business owners and even individuals take their 401k and revert it into something else without spending one more dollar. And we now put it into different assets and different buckets that actually can, believe it or not, provide them with 10 to 15% more liquidity on a monthly basis just by looking at how to take that money and reallocating it.
Thank you. Me and finances, I still have to learn a lot, so much to learn, but maybe, you know, we can get together and talk about that. But
absolutely.
Gentlemen, the thing is out here, the word of this era right now is pivot. You have to do something. And if you are in that place where you are panicking, please don't panic. We're not asking you to panic. We're asking you to take a second look at your finances. And maybe if you talk to a coach, a financial planner, somebody who is not out to get their gain, but is out for you, you'll feel it in your gut. You will feel it in your gut that this person is the right person to work with. And when they listen to you, not with their ears, but with their heart, that's going to make a difference. So this purpose is not to have anybody panic, but to understand that, you know, you can change a life. You can change your own life by changing, you know, a few things in your own portfolio or whatever you have. So if you're panicking, please don't panic. We're here to help you. All you have to do is reach out. I am Munira Zahabi. There's only one in the world. All you have to do is, you know, message. We are out here. We're here to help you. Drew is here to help you. And if you say, and I know he hasn't said this, but if you say, I heard you on Munira's show, he's going to help you out. So, and if he doesn't, call me.
And I will. And you know what, just to tack on to what Munira said, if somebody's going to charge you a fee for your financial advisory and planning, then you don't want to talk to them. I have a dear friend of mine I've known for 40 years, and we were talking about this recently. He's got about $1 million between a couple of different 401ks, he and his wife, and he called an investment firm, and they wanted to charge him several thousands of dollars up front. And I said, hold the phone. No one gets to charge you for a consulting fee up front. They get it on the back end. It's what the commissions are. So, you know, to Munira's point, call and get some free advice, whether from me or from her. Because that 5 minutes, that 10 minutes on the phone could be something well worthwhile for you. But I will say this, do something. You know, Einstein had said, if you continue doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result, don't. So as I say to everybody, you're going to have to get off your butt, get into the game and start to make some changes.
There you go, people. So now you know that you have to get up and do something. The word of this era, I'm going to say era because this is something that's going to go on for a minute or two, but go ahead and change your life by pivoting. If you don't know how to do that, find a coach, find somebody who can help you, because that's everybody out there is talking about pivoting. And you know what? If you like this show, go ahead, share, like, and subscribe to our channel, because there's going to be more people who are going to come and give you more advice. And just be yourselves. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Munira's Musings with your host, Munira Zahabi. If you enjoyed our show, please share and subscribe to this channel. And for more content, please join our Facebook group.